I gotta show you something. Check this out. This is a Stanley Sweetheart chisel. They're nice chisels. It's chrome manganese steel, hardened to about Rockwell 59, so it's good quality stuff. This chisel is not a Stanley Sweetheart, but it also has chrome manganese steel with a Rockwell hardness of about 59. Basically the same steel from what I can tell. But it's also thicker and more robust. And notice how the bevels are better ground. This is a sign of a good chisel because it's actually harder to make chisels with really fine edges like this because of the way that the machine holds the tool as it's being ground. Yet that feature is important because it makes the chisel more useful for getting into tight spaces. But this is what's going to blow your mind. Same steel, from what I can tell, as I said. This one is a superior shape in my opinion, but the Stanley was 40 bucks for one chisel, while this one was $13. Why the big difference? Because this one didn't come with a handle. I had to make the handle myself. It wasn't difficult, I didn't even need a lathe, but that saved me about 70% over the cost of a similarly priced high quality chisel. Now this isn't a new idea. In the old-timey days, many edge tools, like chisels, came without handles. You would get just the forged steel blank. Woodworkers used to make their own handles because, why not? You're a woodworker. A homemade handle can be sized to fit your hand. It can be made from whatever scraps you have available, even something really nice that you've been saving, and it could save you a lot of money. I only recently discovered that you can still do this. You can buy chisels without handles. I get these blanks from a small family-owned company for about 10 bucks a piece. I'm going to link to it below. You really should get one and try it out. I mean, for 10 bucks, what do you got to lose? Make your own handle. Once you do, though, I can almost guarantee you're going to want to do it on a full set because they're of exceptional quality for what I think is a ridiculously low price. And there is just something to be said about using a homemade tool, even if it's just the handle. Now, making the handle was actually a lot of fun. There's several ways that you can do it, but today I want to show you one way that doesn't require a lathe. Instead, I used this simple homemade bandsaw jig. Now, the way that this works is really clever. I've notched a wooden fence so it will fit around the base of my bandsaw blade. Now that allows me to follow a template with a bandsaw just like I might with a router bit. The jig has a template attached to the bottom. That gives my handle a nice subtle curve so it fits my hand. Notice how I can slide it against the fence without the blade cutting into the template itself. A wood blank fits into the jig and is held between the points of two screws so it can rotate, while an angled stop holds it at indexed positions so that I can cut an 8-sided beveled handle. Now this jig was not my design. I saw it on the Past Makes channel. He has a free set of plans which I'm going to link to on his website, so you got to go to him to figure out how to build the jig. But it was really easy, only took me about a half hour to make, and it can be used to create as many chisel handles as you want. Let's check it out in action. It is really quick and simple to use. I'm cutting one facet at a time. Then I'm rotating the blank and I'm using the indexer to find and lock in the next position. If you're curious, my blank is about 1.5 inches square and it's a little more than 4 inches long. It is really amazing how I can just batch these handles out, and I love the multifaceted look. So the next step is drilling the holes for the chisel's tang. I have a clamp that I've cut a notch into so I can hold a handle blank perpendicular at the drill press. I'm drilling a 3/8 inch hole. You can do this by hand with a power drill. There are some tricks that'll help you get it straight, but a drill press is much easier. Here I'm measuring the thickness of the brass collar and the leather washer that's in my chisel kit. The washer is a nice touch that absorbs some of the shock when you strike the chisel with a mallet, so it's less likely to bounce out of position. I mark this measurement on the end of my handle blank, and then I center the collar by eye so I can mark the inside of it with a pencil. Now I have to remove all this waste so the collar will fit onto the end of the handle. First, I saw about 3/8 of an inch deep all the way around. It's okay if I go a little too deep. Nobody's going to be able to see it once the collar's installed. From the end grain, I can now carefully begin splitting away the waste. I do just a little bit at a time. I don't remove too much. This is easier if it's nice and straight grain, but even if the grain is angled a little bit, it can be managed if you just take little bites. Once I'm close to the line, I can use a rasp or a file to round the rest of the waste off. Again, I don't want to take too much off. I want the fit to be tight. If it's tight, I won't need epoxy. In my case, the collar went on with some tapping, and that is exactly what I wanted. Then I covered it with several layers of tape to protect the brass during the next step. I'm drawing a line about a ½ inch from my saw cut shoulder. Then I begin paring from that line, angling the end grain toward the collar. A large wood screw clamp is a great way to hold the blank while I'm working. I'm trying to carry the same 8 facets forward. If my chisel is sharp and I pare just a little bit away at a time, there's no problem working my way all the way around. I'm not worried about perfection. I really want this to have a handmade look. Now it's time to clean up the bandsaw marks. A scraper is an ideal tool for this. I just work on it one facet at a time. Sandpaper works well too. In fact, I do want to soften the edges with some paper to make the handle a bit more comfortable in my hand. I also round over the end, but again, I'm not looking for perfection. I want a handmade look. In fact, I don't care about that dimple on the end from the jig. Now, I don't know if you're supposed to use epoxy when you insert the tang, but I don't think you need it because the tang fits tightly into that hole. And frankly, I'm glad I didn't use any glue because halfway in, I noticed I'd forgotten to put on the leather washer. It was a pain prying that thing back out of the handle, but I managed, and with the washer in place, I was able to fully seat it on the chisel. I don't like a lot of finish on a chisel handle. I want a good grip. So 1 coat of poly was enough. I could have used some tung oil or some boiled linseed oil as well. And there you have it. I love the look. It feels great in my hand, and it saved a bundle. And I don't know, I feel a little extra pride when I use it. Be sure to check out the link to the chisel kits below this video. They're going to sell fast. I know they will at that price, so don't dilly-dally. See you next time.